Different ways to spend your meter. The universal ones are parry, which costs 1 meter, but it refunds you a meter if you're successful and you get a punish or you blow them back. Usually you do actually get a full punish, and it doesn't scale that much, unlike Street Fighter. So it's a very strong thing. But keep in mind that parry you have to do a high parry or a low parry, and low parry does not cover projectiles. It only hits lows, so it's not free to parry at all, and you can obviously grab it as well. Outside of that, there's also push block. Push block is very good. You'll see that a bunch in trailers. And then there's the supers. Supers are very different. Like some of them, like Echo, he has a install super where he creates after images. He has another super where he throws a projectile that he can combo after. Ari, for example, has one level 1 super where she just dives after them, and then another one where she does a projectile ball and then chases her. The interesting part about that one is that you're supposed to, like, normally it just goes like a boomerang, like out and then in. But the best way to use it is actually to throw it out and then run away from it long enough. If you run away from it long enough, then it does like an explosion. So there's some really cool combos where you throw it out and then you like air dash over the opponent as the ball is coming, and so the ball goes like this and then explodes, and does way more damage than if you just like do it and then do nothing. After that, you also have level 2s, which is invincible generally. They're full cinematic. You generally can't do like level 1 into level 2. As far as I know, maybe with double down you can do that. I actually did not test that. But level 2s are also a little bit character specific, without mentioning too much. But yeah, overall meter is very important. If you get caught on defense without meter, you will really feel that, and it's significantly hard to get out. Yeah, so one of the reasons why you have separate meters is exactly as you said. Like, it's so that your other teammate can't use it. You have someone else using all their meter. Compared to all the other fighting games, what makes Project L more unique than others? Can Smash players also get into it as well? Absolutely, Smash players can get into it. I think it's going to take a little bit initially, but there are no motion inputs, so it does feel a little bit like Smash in that way. What makes it different? Well, obviously the most unique thing is that 2 people can play on one side, right, for one team. Although that was a thing in Cross Tekken, but it wasn't very popular. I would say the most unique thing, honestly, is that it's a very complex, very community first. Like, it's for people that love fighting games, not people that like want to play fighting games for a week and then drop it. It's for the people that love it. It's super hype. It's very movement focused compared to most games, and it's backed by such an enormous company with such a good IP. I think that's honestly what makes it the most unique, that it's just really, really good. It's very likely, knowing Riot and the people that developed it were the ones developing GPO. It's also going to be the first fighting game with servers, which means that most likely the netcode is just going to be incredible, because if I have to play against someone on the West Coast, normally I have to send all my data all the way to West Coast, right? But theoretically now we could both play on a server on the East Coast, and we could both have like 80 ping to that server. So I think that those are the biggest things, but there's tons of small things that I think really add unique gameplay. Like a team game with burst, with rounds is very unique and stuff like that. But I would say the biggest thing is definitely just the amount of support, where it's coming from, and obviously the 2v2 game mode. 2v2 and 1v1 and 1v2. Given the League of Legends gigantic roster, did the devs happen to give any hint as to how large they like the cast in Project L to be in comparison when all is said and done? Yeah, so here you can, but it wasn't very popular. Meter. Compared to all the other fighting games, what makes Project L more unique than others? Can Smash players also get into it as well? Absolutely, Smash players can get into it. I think it's going to take a little bit initially, but there are no motion inputs, so it does feel a little bit like Smash in that way. What makes it different? Well, obviously the most unique thing is that 2 people can play on one side, right, for one team. Although that was a thing in Cross Tekken, but it wasn't very popular. I would say the most unique thing, honestly, is that it's a very complex, very community first. Like, it's for people that love fighting games, not people that like want to play fighting games for a week and then drop it. It's for the people that love it. It's super hype. It's very movement focused compared to most games, and it's backed by such an enormous company with such a good IP. I think that's honestly what makes it the most unique, that it's just really, really good. It's very likely, you know, knowing Riot and the people that developed it were the ones developing GPO. It's also going to be the first fighting game with servers, which means that the most likely the netcode is just going to be incredible, because if I have to play against someone on the West Coast, normally I have to send all my data all the way to West Coast, right? But theoretically now we could both play on a server on the East Coast, and we could both have like 80 ping to that server. So I think that those are the biggest things, but there's tons of small things that I think really add, you know, unique gameplay. Like a team game with burst, with rounds is very unique and stuff like that. But I would say the biggest thing is definitely, you know, just the amount of support, where it's coming from, and obviously the 2v2 game mode. 2v2 and 1v1 and 1v2. Given the League of Legends gigantic roster, did the devs happen to give any hint as to how large they like the cast in Project Delta to be in comparison when all is said and done? Yeah, so here you can see that there's 14 characters total. So I'm assuming 14 is the launching, and I'm assuming they're also going to, you know, release more and more. It's going to be free to play. It's going to have characters coming out frequently, right? They didn't tell us, you know, how the format's going to work, how many characters you're going to be able to play for free. All of them, none of them, you know. As for characters, they did mention that they want some monsters in. It's not just going to be, you know, anime girls and guys. And I definitely think they will do that. They will definitely have some funny characters. And I think they're basically going to go with the obvious, right? Like popular characters that have interactions with the roster already here, you know, so that they can have, you know, voice lines, stuff like that, team ups that you want to see. And then, obviously, they're also going to go for characters that play in an interesting way. They're not going to have 15 assassins that all play the exact same way. Like, I think they'll go for really popular characters. And then once they've decided the popular characters, what I would do is then try to fill the gameplay gaps with characters that would make really good fighting game characters, but might not be as popular. So yeah, let me know in the comments who you would want to see. How does aerial movement feel? From what I've heard, it's character specific, but how do you feel like if your character doesn't have good air options? They may feel rough to play neutral. AK to play in DNF duel and dealing with full screen normals. So first off, the normals in this game are not full screen. There are some specials that will go very far, but it's not like DNF at all where you can't do that. There's air block, super jump, dash jump, you know, character unique movement. So Echo has a, what makes it different? Well, obviously the most unique thing is that two people can play on one side, right, for one team. Although that was a thing in cross Tekken, but it wasn't very popular. I would say the most unique thing, honestly, is that it's a very complex, very community first. Like, it's for people that love fighting games, not people that like want to play fighting games for a week and then drop it. It's for the people that love it. It's super hype. It's very movement focused compared to most games, and it's, you know, backed by such an enormous company with such a good IP. I think that's honestly what makes it the most unique, that it's just really, really good. It's very likely, you know, knowing Riot and the people that developed it were the ones developing GPO. So it's going to be the first fighting game with servers, which means that the most likely the netcode is just going to be incredible, because if I have to play against someone on the West Coast, normally I have to send all my data all the way to West Coast, right? But theoretically now we could both play on a server on the East Coast, and we could both have like 80 ping to that server. So I think that those are the biggest things, but there's tons of small things that I think really add, you know, unique gameplay. Like a team game with burst, with rounds is very unique and stuff like that. But I would say the biggest thing is definitely, you know, just the amount of support, where it's coming from, and obviously the 2v2 game mode. 2v2 and 1v1 and 1v2. Given the League of Legends gigantic roster, did the devs happen to give any hint as to how large they like the cast in Project Delta to be in comparison when all is said and done? Yeah, so here you can see that there's 14 characters total. So I'm assuming 14 is the launching, and I'm assuming they're also going to, you know, release more and more. It's going to be free to play. It's going to have characters coming out frequently, right? They didn't tell us, you know, how the format's going to work, how many characters you're going to be able to play for free. all of them, none of them, As for characters, they did mention that they want some monsters in. It's not just gonna be anime girls and guys. And I definitely think they will do that. They will definitely have some funny characters. And I think they're basically gonna go with the obvious, right? Like popular characters that have interactions with the roster already here, so that they can have voice lines, stuff like that, team ups that you want to see. And then obviously they're also going to go for characters that play in an interesting way. They're not going to have 15 assassins that all play the exact same way. Like, I think they'll go for really popular characters, and then once they've decided the popular characters, what I would do is then try to fill the gameplay gaps with characters that would make really good fighting game characters but might not be as popular. So yeah, let me know in the comments who you would want to see. How does aerial movement feel? From what I've heard, it's character specific, but how do you feel like if your character doesn't have good air options? They may feel rough to play neutral, achy to play in DNF duel and deal with full screen normals. So first off, the normals in this game are not full screen. There are some specials that will go very far, but it's not like DNF at all where you can't do that. There's air block, super jump, dash jump, character unique movement. So Echo has a dash. I don't think Darius has anything. So with Darius, you're less likely to like super jump, but something every character had that I played was that they have moves that change how they move in the air, even if it's not a double jump or an air backdash. Like a special stops you. Echo can, for example, throw his projectile and that stops him. He has the like cut down move, which stops him as well. Can bait anti-airs with that. So air movement does feel good. Right now, anti-airs are a little bit strong, but that's just like super alpha build. I would like to see a little bit more air movement, but it's definitely not feeling like anywhere close to DNF. Like, it very much feels like the air movement of a team game. I guess this is only a 2-day event. There wasn't that much time to deeply lab combos. What were the rules for combos? Same move duration high? Not really. How many touches per kill per character? So generally, it could depend. There were TOD combos that were found, but they were pretty special, and they obviously require your opponent not to have burst. Overall, 2 to 3 good hits would be good, but there are plenty of situations where it's kind of hard to convert, where you only get like 1 hit. Like, for example, grabs don't do that much damage. They're more for setup. Ari's anti-air, for example, does not give a full combo. Obviously, some projectiles don't lead into full combo, stuff like that. So it's kind of variable, but I would say in general, if you get normal hits, you can end them in 2 if you have a lot of meter. 3 is more normal, especially if they have burst. Like, if they burst the first combo, then you get 2 more good combos. There is no clear limit, but there is wall bounce and ground bounce both work in a special way where I think they both share somewhat of the same thing. There's a special state where you kind of crumple into the corner, and mid-screen they will just slide, but if you hit the corner, then they will crumple. And you can set up really good OK from this because they just stand up. They get no stand-up options from this. But if you just attack them, then you just combo them. Kind of like wall slump in Guilty Gear Strive. So very lenient for pickups in the corner. If you do that one twice mid-screen, you get like a special like super wall bounce, which kind of just pushes them all the way to the corner. Same thing with the ground bounce. Like, you get like a special effect if you ground bounce them twice in a row. Instead of, how in Marvel, they just kind of, if you ground bounce them after already having used up your ground bounce, they just kind of, like instantly go on the ground. In this game, there's like a special like zoom in effect, little pause when you double wall bounce or double ground bounce someone. And there are some special effects. For example, if you do the like wall slump thing twice, you could actually steal the corner on the second one. There is a version here which we'll get to in the clips. So they like added this extra thing where like you're trying to sometimes do a double wall bounce so you get different Oki compared to just a regular knockdown and stuff like that. It was very variable, and it felt very interesting because of that, since you got so many different ways to combo. Like for Ari, you had different Oki if you did a regular knockdown, a double wall slump or wall bounce, or a double ground bounce. And then you could also like push them out of the corner, so you have min screen Oki if you'd prefer that, stuff like that. But yeah, I do think the damage has to be a little bit lower in general than the craziest team games, but it shouldn't be too low, since yes, it is a 2v2 fighters. You can't have 3v3, you know, TODs or one-touch kills as often. But there is rounds in this game, so you really don't want it to be in a situation where every single game, if it goes to, you know, round 3, it takes like 10 minutes. Overall, right now, the round time was very long compared to most fighting games. Like, best of 3 could take 4 to 7 minutes sometimes, and that was general when something went to time, but it did not feel like a super fast like a game in terms of how quickly the match went on. It was more fast in terms of how quickly you move and how quickly you make decisions. But you're not getting, you know, constantly one hit killed. How do you feel about the designs of the assists? Were they more useful starting your turn from neutral, or were they better when you already had your advantage? So the assists are very interesting because you have 2 assists per character, normal, and then you have the charged one. It really depends, and I think this is one of the most interesting things if you come from other team games, that the assist can kind of be used in any way. So Ari has a dash assist, where she kind of goes, you know, like a lariat, and she has a cold star assist where, let me see if I can find this one. Yeah, here we go. So this is the cold star assist, right? And so Echo has one where he throws his projectile, and another one where he dashes in. And because of the hand tag thing, you can kind of do both. There's some combos where your attack will knock them all the way full screen. So what you can do then is you can predict that that attack will hit, and then call out your charge assist. The character will start running, and then once the character comes close, like your assist character, then you will hand tag over to them. There's also situations where, for example, with Ari, she has to recharge her orbs. So one cool thing that a dev showed me is that you can, with Ari on the screen, if you need to recharge orb, you can super jump up into the air, call an assist, and then charge the orbs. And then as soon as the assist, like the character comes out, you don't even need to have the attack come out. You can instantly tag to them. You'll be instantly actionable, and then Ari will be at the top of the screen, recharging, slowly drifting down. And that leaves you space to defend both of your characters and get the recharges semi-safely. Obviously, if you do get hit instantly, then you're in a lot of trouble because she's eventually going to come down and you're going to get TOD'd. Or, I mean, sorry, happy birthday combo. But yeah, I would say assist, the way the assist works is that you can really use it very freeform and in all the different ways that you just specified. It felt very balanced so far. You would use your assist both in neutral and on get in, and you know, it really felt very like player to player which one they used more. I see a lot of people calling the game BB tag with simple inputs. From the gameplay perspective, do you feel that way as well? If not, where's the game different similar to BB tag? I would personally say it's more like a Marvel game, like Marvel 3, but with some anime mechanics. That's what it felt more like to me, especially with how the characters, their kits felt very like, they felt very deep, and obviously there is some part of that to BB tag as well, but it really felt like, you know, every character moves different, they have different mobility. The like Echo's like time winder is like very core to his design. Same thing with Ari and her Foxfires and stuff like that. Darius with this bleed and so on. That it really felt reminiscent of Marvel, you know, design. And I know a lot of the people on the team are big Marvel fans as well. So it kind of felt like to me, it felt very much like a Marvel 3 plus Guilty Gear. Like the character design leaning a little bit towards Guilty Gear. And burst obviously existing, stuff like that. And the way meter is used is kind of like Guilty Gear, where you have like 1 meter for a lot of things and then your burst meter. Whereas in Marvel 3, for example, you don't really use your meter for defense that much. Overall, though, I would say that it is similar to BB Tag. The biggest difference is that BB Tag, even though the mechanics on paper are very similar, BB Tag doesn't really play very similar because the normals in BB Tag and the special moves, they cover the entire screen. Like, you're very cramped in BB Tag. The backwards movement is not nearly as good in that, or the, like, you know, aerial movement. So you're very much like just fighting very close, whereas in Projectile it's a lot more about movement and dashing away, getting some straight hits. One of the biggest changes that they made sure not to be a mix-up, that Battle for the Grid and what's it called, BB Tag both have, which is that what you can do in those games is that you basically sandwich your opponent. You start hitting them on block, you put the assist on the other side, and then bam, you tag to them and then hit them from your assist, or you stay with your main character, and that by itself becomes a mix-up. In this game, when you swap to your assist character, there's a freeze, which is intentionally made long enough to where you're not going to get mixed up just by teleporting and swapping character control, which I think is very good design, and it's a very bad way how BB tag, and honestly power for the Power Rangers game as well, Battle for the Grid. So I really like it. So generally, it's like, you know, you could say that it's BB tag but not Kusuge, but to me, it very much feels like it's not made to be that game. It's made to be like a Marvel inspired, taking a little bit from everything, taking, you know, mechanics from every new game, rather than a BB tag game. Do the LM, MH, LMH button combination do anything? So LM is dash. You can also bind that separately. So there's essentially a dash button. The way dashes work, let me get into that real quick. Dashes are interesting because if you hold back and then press dash dash dash, you will continuously wave dash. But the optimal way to do wave dashing is generally, for both forward and backwards, is to do dash and then down, so you crouch and then you dash again. If you do dash block, so you do dash forward and then crouch block, like down back, you almost instantly stop. So think about how it looks like when you dash and then FD in a Guilty Gear game. You like stop like instantly. So you can't do the thing in Guilty Gear Strive and Dragon Ball, for example, where you're dashing forward and holding down back, and your character just keeps running, but they're actually blocking, or they're sliding rather in Strive. So I think that's a very good thing, and it also allows for a lot of microspacing. Like you can dash a tiny bit. You can do fake outs. Like it really does feel like you can, you know, dash dance, just move really well. MH is throw, so you use that for both air throw and groundo throw. I'm pretty sure you can tech while crouching as well. LMH was not a binding as far as I know, but L plus H is parry, and that also has a different shortcut. Which game do you think now is the best to learn this game, taking into account mix-ups, constant, SS-based neutral? So what game should you play if you're hyped by Projectile? Honestly, the biggest thing is play any fighting game. Whichever one you like will transfer over. If it's a 2D fighting game, that's extra. Like that will help you more rather than playing, you know, Tekken. But even Tekken things transfer over for sure. I would say, like, out of the big games, I would say that Strive is the closest in terms of like the general game pace, how mix-ups work, kind of. Especially if you play a more complicated character like, you know, Sato, Havoc Chaos, Jacko. They have a little bit more meat in how they, you know, mix up things and how you do a lot of different things. But the problem with Strive is that it's not nearly as movement focused as some of the other games. So it would learn you to play offense and defense in that game, but it might not teach you the movement or assist. Assist and movement, I would definitely not play Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball has a very strict movement thing, and has a ton of, like, you know, it has those full screen normals that Projectile does not have. It doesn't, you know, backdashes are very risky. I would say, honestly, probably Skullgirls, Battle for the Grid, or Marvel 3 if you want to learn the ground movement. But there isn't really one super one-to-one. Street Fighter, you know, it's just very, like, very low in power level compared to these games. Like, you're not having air dashes and stuff like that. So I wouldn't really recommend that as, like, the #1 game. But on the other hand, I think Street Fighter 6 is just a great way to get into fighting games in general. So, you know, you'll probably, if you do get into Street Fighter, you'll still learn a lot of things that will help you in Projectile, and you'll have a lot of people to play with. So, yeah. Do you think 2v2 or 1v1 should be tournament standard, or perhaps there will be from anyone can enter with any amount they want? So I think that, at least in the beginning, people are going to be able to enter any way they want. That's how the tournament we ran there ran, and there doesn't really seem to be any problems with it. Right now, most people are agreed that 1v1 feels like it should be stronger. There are tiny benefits to playing 2v2, but those are like, oh, you know, if you have a character and you do a move that needs a charge, for example, like you need to hold down a button, then you can tag out, and then your teammate can control the point character while your assist character still holds the charge. So when they get to go back in, they have the charge still. Or you can do a thing where if you do a super, and with RE super you can steer it like how it goes like this. You can do super and then do another super, right? And if you do that normally with one player on the team, you can't really control how the super goes as soon as you swap the characters. But since if you're two people on the same team, you can decide how that super goes and adjust it, which helps a little bit. Overall, I would still say that 1v1 player feels stronger, and they want to keep them kind of even if possible. But I think overall 1v1 will probably be the more popular mode. But I do think 2v2 is definitely nothing to scoff at. It's not like a gimmick mode that like only 1 or 2 people will play ever. I do think it's going to be a big part of the game, and I do think it's very, very fun. Do I think casuals will enjoy it? I think casuals will enjoy it, but it's not a game made for people that are super casual. Marvel 3 was fun, right? Because you just do 1 2 3 S 1 2 3. Like you have that same thing where you can just do a very basic combo like 1 2 3 launcher, and then you super jump up, and then you do 1 2 3 launcher. Or you can do really long combos. Same thing with Dragon Ball, right? There still was that thing of like an easy combo is still fun to do, and I still think a lot of other people will have fun. What they're betting on though is not making the game super easy, but making it enjoyable to learn. So I talked to them and they were like, yeah, so hopefully we'll obviously do good tutorials and stuff like that, but hopefully one of the main things that helps people get over that barrier is that when you're 2 people on one team, you can teach your friends. If me, a fighting in pro, have a friend, let's say one of my Smash friends wants to get into Project L, like, okay, teach me how to play. If we were to play a normal fighting game, the only options really is me sitting next to him, coaching him as he plays bad players, and that can be very annoying and very overwhelming as a new player, or very, very boring for me, right? Because I don't get to play any. Or we play against each other, and then if you play against someone else, then you're just gonna shit on them if you're a good player, or like super sandbag, in which case it probably won't be fun for him either. Like both people will have a bad time. The cool thing about Project L is that it really incentivizes that thing of like, you take your friend, you play with them, you can tag them in and out, you can give them real-time coaching, and there's an incentive for you to coach, right? Because if you coach them, then you're going to do better as a team as well. And I think it's going to be very good for a new player to have that thing of like, if you play for a little bit, then you tag out, then you can watch your teammate who might know more about fighting games do the thing, and then you swap back. Now he can tell you, try to do this thing, I'll call my assist there, stuff like that. I really do think that it's going to help people learn the game just by how the social structure around the game works. But yeah, I do think casuals will have fun with it. I don't really think that Street Fighter 6 is much more approachable in many ways. Also the fact that it just like looks more slower, it looks slower, stuff like that. As long as the matchmaking is good, it doesn't really matter as much how complex the game is, as long as you can find people on your own level. So I personally think that it will be fine for casuals, but it's not a game that's aimed to be, it's not aimed for people that are gonna play it once and then drop it. With how free-to-play models work, what Riot wants is that they want people that are diehards, that log in, they buy the season pass, they buy the skins, they buy the characters, they watch tournaments. If they can get those and get those people to pay long term, that's gonna be way more better for them, right? Like they're gonna way more money than like 200,000, 500,000, a million people that all play but they don't like the game enough, like they're very casual, so they're not spending they're not buying anything. The free-to-play model really works in its favor here because it allows you to make a game that will be fun for a long time rather than it's instantly fun. If you have a game that's $60, $70 price tag when you buy it, the game has to be fun right away. If the game is not fun right away, you're just going to refund it or you're not going to buy it at all. So yeah, I'm very hyped about that. How strong is offense looking on day one? Offense is very strong, but it is not that strong mid-screen. As soon as you learn how to do the retreating guard thing, it became pretty obvious that like offense is strong mid-screen, like you can still get hit, there's still mix-ups, but it's very brief. Like you do a 1 2 3 and then someone is generally out, unless you're taking big risks to continue your pressure. So like you're doing jab, jab, dash up, jab, jab, you know, to keep getting close to them. It's very dynamic, and I think the offense strength is very, very good. Where if you get them in the corner, especially on knockdown, now sometimes you just have to block. And sometimes there will be those situations where you like block, you know, for 10 seconds straight, you block a bunch of mix-ups, and it's super hype. That Goichi style moment, right? And I really think it has the best of both worlds, where the average block string is not long, but sometimes you get them in the corner, you get the perfect situation, you're just like, they don't have burst, right? Like, and you just get to maul them. And I feel like that, like how dynamic that is, that the average block string is not that long, but there are long block strings. The average combo is not that long, but if you're spending everything to kill someone, then it can be long. I think that's a very interesting and fun way to play a fighting game, where not every combo is kind of like this basic rhythm where like every combo is this long and then every block string is this long. Keeps it fresh. I only play the game on stick. Some people play it on pad. It does seem good for both. Is Projectile going to be a W? So a lot of people ask me, like, is the game actually good? Do people like it? So I like it, obviously. But I think the best like vouch you can give for the game was that the first day we got there at 9:30. We had to go up. Some people were jet lagged. Some people travel very far. And so we go in there. We have a walkthrough presentation. Then we get to play the game, get lunch. We play more of the game, get more walkthrough, and then it's 7 p.m. We eat, and then they're like, "Okay, you guys have to come back at 9 tomorrow." And there's a shuttle leaving to the hotel, like a very nice hotel. You can either go there now, or you can play until 11 p.m. where the Riot office is closed. I think out of like the 30, 40 people, everyone but I think 2 stayed and played until 11. Like, I think basically everyone really liked it. Obviously, it's not perfect this early, but the initial impressions were very strong. And people played all the time day 2 as well. Like, the general response to everyone I talked about was like, "Oh my god, they got it! Like, they have it. They finally found like a really good fighting game. Now they just have to finish developing this." In 2v2, who decides to tie in? The person that is controlling the main character is the one that decides when to swap full control to the other character. So there will be moments where you're like, "Hey, why do you tag me in right now?" But the player that isn't on the screen is the one that decides when to call the assist. So you have to kind of have like this handshake thing. Since generally when you tag to the other player, it's after they call his assist. So it's a little bit of both, basically on who controls. But you are the one that decides when to swap full control. Chip kills were not in the game. Jump-ins are strong, but answers are also strong. You do not get punished for blocking. Offense does feel balanced. So I already kind of went through offense there, but it feels very strong, but you definitely have chances to, defend. And the offense is not very strong unless you're taking big risks if you're a solo character. Then it feels like dramatically, less strong since you don't have the assist to make up for it. One quick Twitch chat question. Spam your shit and I will answer one question from chat. No, every character does not have an air dash. Echo has a hop. Ari has a full-on air dash plus a dive thing, like air dash back and forth. Darius has no air movement in terms of like that, but he does have specials that change how he moves. Best guess at release date? Late 2024. Beta is what I would guess. Maybe 2025. It's gonna be a while, but I would like. There's so many fighting games. We'll survive. We'll survive. I would rather have it be done. So this is a really funny thing. What they said is that we want to make this game long term. We want to make this game, not just last a year. One of the big things they drove home was that they want this game to not go through this classic cycle that like Street Fighter V, Guilty Gear, Dragon Ball, all these games go through, where like the game starts out and the game starts up a little rough, not that many characters, right? And then it gets better and better and better, new